Hello to everybody. I'm going to record this in an essence to try and pull on your greater imagination. I'm also going to disclose what it feels like, what it is like, and what it was like for me in the dating scene as it may be today and back in the day. And finding myself for many years being single and choosing to be single by choice, right? Perhaps protecting my children for most of those years and not wanting every Harry, Dick, and Joe to come in and out of their lives. I protected them. Not once did they ever wake up with a Harry, Dick, or a Joe asking for me to grab a beer or anything for him from the fridge while he's sitting like a king in my living room watching some circus and breadcrumbs via an NFL game on a Sunday afternoon. Those kinds of things didn't happen in my life for a reason. I warded them off. I was in environments where there could have probably been, and I know there was, many have offered, many offered different scenarios because that's what the name of the game is. Anyone thinks that you are worth a particular dollar sign or price and sell out through a contract through them, through material needs. And because of the street smarts that comes, and I give the gratitude for the environment that I did grow up, which is Las Vegas High, born and raised, Sunrise Hospital, right? What a name. Beautiful. On the hottest day of the year in July. And I'm a Leo, and I have big old 80s hair, big and curly, and I can wear it any way I want, and I can blow dry it straight if I want. All that fun stuff that goes with it. Add on a little bit of Aquanet. Get her going. And roar. Right? Be yourself. That's what I was. And growing up in Vegas, you didn't spend your time hanging out on the strips and, you had your advantages and you had the cheap, what we call barfets, which are buffets for, $1.99 back then with eggs and steak and the whole bit. The comp systems completely changed and all that, but we knew our ins and outs. I mean, we could go down to Fremont Street and skip school, which I graduated Las Vegas High School. The only one in my family of 8 that did, that my mother and father graduated from. They all went to a Catholic high school, where I went 1st through 8th grade to a Catholic private school. And then my 9th grade year, I was introduced to, drugs and rock and roll, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Very naive. I didn't even know what kissing French was by 8th grade, which is ironic that now, children have it at the click of their fingers, let alone grown men. And women have indulged, then there's an even playing field there now, just at a click of a finger. They indulge their minds, don't they? They indulge their minds. They get lost in some realm that's pulling them in. They don't even know it. If they were to look in the mirror and truly look at themselves and not the black mirror in front of their faces and see what they've been digesting, visually, what's been at their fingertips for a while, and now is infecting our children's in their minds, and the parents, and bringing in the gadgets and the games, the shoot 'em ups, and the thugging around, the trading around of human beings, physically, women being abused and left, society growing into where 70% of society ends up in divorce. It's just tragic, right? This is something I watched, I observed, I saw. I was in a business, my original, where I traveled, and I was too busy in my mind. I was too busy creating. I was too busy dancing. I was too busy enjoying the fruits of my labor and the nature of this realm, which is the beauty. And I loved it. And I didn't think about men. I didn't worry about it. I knew in my distance they're probably, and I knew by the time I was 20, but early on, I just went for it. I just flew. And in that flight, I got pretty street smart coming out of Vegas at 17 and starting out. And my dating was slim and far between. I mean, I was 2.5 years in Atlantic City, and the whole New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York type of attitude was pretty aggressive. Slick back hair, little gold chain, shirt untied or down, mid mid drift with like silk shirt or something, like just a slick, gonna be slick, gonna slick you out of something, right? Attitude, that wasn't my thing. So by 21, I still wasn't really dating. Here I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 years. No real boyfriend, no nothing out of high school. I went down to Acapulco. And the guy that listened to me in this lobby of the Hyatt at the time where I was doing a show, I had been sick for 3 days up in the village part where they were going to put us in these hotel loft or like shanty kind of thing up the hill. And the first day I got there, I got sick on the water or the meat in the coffee shop, which is where we would get our free meal, our per diem per se, right? Plus the room they give us up the hill. Well, I got sick. And by my third day of being sick, I'm watching that ceiling fan, the tile was like falling off and there was cockroaches and it just was nasty. And my cast members were coming by the second, third day. Come on, you got to get up there. We're doing the rehearsals. We need you for the show. We're going to get this going. I was sick as a dog. By the time I could get my bags together, there was no way I was going to be in this place they put us in. I hadn't stayed in a place like that. I wasn't even raised like that where I came from. Like there could be an upgrade or send me home. So I trot myself up there at 21 years old in paradise, and I land in the lobby of the Hyatt, and my whole cast is there, and I'm the manager of the show at the time as well, and the lead. And here comes my producer, and they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" I said, I am not going to live like that. Can you imagine walking out at 1 a.m. through the alleyways and the cats and the dogs and those trash cans and those people like running around like they're really like it was not a good area for single girls to be rolling around at 1 o'clock, especially foreign. So I was just protecting myself at 21 and just knew to do it. Just knew this was not a good sensation. It was an intuitive thing laying there those 3 days sick. And I was like, I'm not doing it. So meanwhile, while I'm in that lobby, this gentleman came down that ran the Hyatt and was corporate, right? So he worked during the day. And he's like, who's this? And by the time we got done talking, and he offered me a bungalow suite in front of the pool so that we could continue the show and leave the marquee up that had my name on it. And I turned around and I said, not just for me, but for everyone. I'm not the only one that needs protection in this situation. Like my cast members, which there were 6 of us girls and then 2 acts. So they gave us 6 bungalows with 2 of us in each bungalow, right? Lining the pool. We were set. And this gentleman started sending me, at the time it was Giorgio, which came in that yellow and white type of a box, and put flowers in the room and asked me if I drank, and I said no. And I said, well, I'll do like a frozen margarita strawberry, or say a Bailey's coffee. Oh, well, that was a specialty after like a meal or something. Have a Bailey's coffee or by the fire. That was something I kind of liked that. And I did like the in Atlantic City, I did sip on Frangelica, which is a liqueur from an Italian liqueur. I kind of like that. I haven't had that in probably 30 plus years. My goodness. But I did like that at one time. Anyways, he stocked the bars with Baileys, and then he said, look, I'll send you money because the changeover to pesos, you don't get your money out of it, right? So I just signed everything to the room, and I was able to send my money back to the States. So the exchange over, I'd get more money out of my checks. And things are rolling, and I got, a driver, Jorge, this type of thing, could go to a gym and do my thing. And then he is wanting to take me to the club where they open the door for him and he smokes a cigarette and he puts his arm around me and I'm like his trophy. And the dude's like receding hairline and has a wife and children in California, I come to find out. And as a penthouse room. So he would be like, go ahead and go up there during the daytime because that's when we're off because we're not doing the show at night. And we could order what we wanted and have room service with the butler and play the CDs that come out back then and just really cranking my music at the time and having a great time, inviting everybody up and then writing my poetry and laying out in the sun. And next thing I know, I bought a drink on the beach for me and the girls and I sent it off and said, no, I don't know where it came from. And that night at the show, I'm given a picture with roses and a picture of a gentleman that says, from the front row, will you be our guest at Baby-O, which is like a rock formation type Flintstone nightclub in Acapulco at the time. I think it's still there, but anyways. Oh my goodness. I met them after and they took us all there and he says, I was the one that bought you the drink that you refused, so I made sure I came to your show tonight. And I said, well, I'm not going to drink cocktails from, strangers or bought for us or whatever. Even though the butler, delivered it, I didn't know where it really came from. And on the beach that day earlier. So after the show, we went to this Baby-O's. We danced all night till the doors were shut for us, like request any song we want kind of thing. And it was just very romantic and very Lady in Red was the song at the time. And I had a full jumpsuit silk that was red and very, very, very stuck in my mind. I have pictures of it. One day I'll go through photo albums and share those things. I documented everything, and I have it in photo albums, which is unfortunate these days that everything's just at the click of a mouse and can be deleted, and it's saved on these files and this and that, and it's chipped, and it's not really displayed, and people don't frame things, or they don't put it in a photo album they can sit with their family or their children and go through their life and kind of do what I'm doing, explaining things. So, anyways, this particular person that put up the room for us and did all these things out of the request that we be safe wasn't anything I asked for, nothing. It was just constantly overdoing it, right? To make me feel that I would owe something, which is what some people would, they're capable of doing that, right? So this is the things I learned very young, how the manipulation game starts. Threw us a big Thanksgiving dinner. I was the head of the table. My producer, everybody came. They rolled in the mariachi band, and the ladies spun the big things on their heads with the dip and the chips and the whole. I mean, I had the whole thing. When he asked me what did I want or what I miss, or I said I would just love to have a Thanksgiving dinner and invite the whole crew. I have pictures of that. So those are the things you keep in memory. But that particular person, after the gift giving and everything, didn't like me going out dancing, and that's what I love to do. Even though I did that as a career, I like to freestyle, and I like to just go out and express my energy through freestyle dancing. I've done it my whole life. I will continue doing it. If I'm rocking in my rocking chair on the front porch, I'll probably be bopping my head and swinging my hips. Something's going on with me. So it's in me. I love my music, and whatever that rhythm is, or whatever, anybody wants to cast on there, oh, you've been hypnotized or brainwashed through music. No, I have certain music I listen to. I've got something playing in the background right now that is completely satisfying to my taste, my vibe. It's soothing and doesn't interfere with my thinking and my brain waves to think straight and knock me off my balance. So I choose wisely, and I always have. And what inspires me, what gets me going, what gets me kicking, what mellows me out, what balances me. So back to Acapulco. Anyways, this particular man and that other man that had baby-os, I went out the very final evening, and he had brought me up and said, I know, basically, if you're going out down the street and going out with the girls after, have a good life, and gave me my poetry, my clothes, and my things from his room and everything, and shut the door, and I never saw him again. Well, the next morning after going out the evening before, I called because he put a phone in my room so I could get a hold of my father, and the girls could use the phone. We didn't have one, and he put one in there. And it was a rotary. You pick it up. I remember it was kind of beige yellow. And that morning I called from the gentleman's house that I was dating. That's the one I was dating that owned baby-os. Very, very sensual, whatever Rique Suave. I mean, if that's I don't even know, just a very confident Rique Suave, has the sunkest, tan going on his body, is that olive tan. It's just beautiful, beautiful. That long, curly to the neck hair, and just a genuine heart, right? I call in the morning, and the girls tell me that the marquee, which is where our show name would be in front of the hotel, has been taken down, and that gentleman that told me the night before, have a good life, right? The one that put us up in the bungalow, had cut off our credit to the coffee shop, and that he wants them to get the first flight out, and my producer, and that the show's been closed, and we no longer have credit at the coffee shop. So I'm like, okay. And they're like, you need to get back here as soon as you can. And I'm like, well, this guy's got all my money sent to my dad, and if I don't get back in time, I'm not getting my airplane ticket. So the gentleman, I don't have cash. The gentleman that I was with literally goes under a jar and doesn't have pesos, but gets $100 bill and says, you're probably going to have to break that, and you're probably going to have to pay for your way to get out. And the reason being is we stopped in Mexico on our way there, and I had given over my birth certificate to, it would be like a union where they get you your work visa. And you have to have identification, and they stamp it, and then you get your work visa for working in Mexico. And when we were there, I got to see the Aztec pyramids and do everything completely just organic, and very good time for 3 weeks, because you have to hire everywhere you go. Japan, Bahamas, Mexico, wherever you land for a show, you need to hire, as part of their union workforce, one of their native people. So that's what we were doing there for 3 weeks, was auditioning and doing some practice for the show too, because we had the studio. And meanwhile, I'm heading out to the Aztec pyramids and doing all that, and we had some really great guides, and had a great time. Nothing weird, nothing happened, nothing. Just some really good dinners, and saw the Aztec pyramids. Got a poncho. I still have it. It's an Aztec poncho. And, very grateful to these experiences. And I remember, I have them all in my photo album. So I can prove I have the receipts, as they say, in my photo album of my life. I was gracious. So now down to Acapulco, and what happened that evening, and break that $100, this guy says, and basically, adios, amigo, yeah, I had to take off, and I get dropped off, and I had known and found out there was a few kids the day before. This is why the gentleman got mad, but he had people or kids watching me probably for a few pesos a day to see where I was going in the evening, and to see when I would return in the morning or at night or whatever, and was reporting back to that person that was running the Hyatt that put us up in the hotel bungalow suites. And that person's the one that was gifting me with the Giorgio perfume, and putting the phone in the room, and loading the bars with Baileys, this type of thing. And putting it where we were kind of I was entrapped, in a sense that I would owe him something, and I would never want to be in that position again. And I learned that at 21 years old. So I had a driver that I'd gotten to know, I took all my luggage out because by the time I got back, everybody was gone. I went to the office and it was a redhead British type gentleman, and he's like, look, you're going to need to pay your bill before Juan was the dude's name, was going to allow me to get my airline ticket to get out of there. So now I'm stuck in a position where I don't even have a passport, nothing. My birth certificate's been left in Mexico City. And I'm like, at this point, I go to the front. I watch this huge machine at the time. It was like a real big fat one that prints out the big paper with the bubbles on both sides and you can tear them off. But anyways, it was forever. And I asked for my receipt of my charges to my room or dinners or whatever. And I was watching at the front how they do it, and they would get it and they would circle at the bottom and then initial it when people were checking out. So there was this huge Christmas tree. It was around the lobby area. So I grabbed this paperwork and I go around the Christmas tree and I tear off all the other pieces and I go to the bottom and I circle it and I sign it and I take it to the office to that red-headed British guy that was running the ship for the gentleman from the night before, the guy that runs the Hyatt. That was like his secretary, okay? And he's running the ship now the next day, and I got to get out of here because now I'm feeling trapped, and I'm 21 in paradise, and forgive me for having a good time, right? And knowing the difference. So I bring that receipt into him after circling it, and I had called my dad my last trip into the room to grab my stuff, and everybody had gone. I used the phone to call my dad and allow him to know that if I don't make it home in 72 hours, you need to call the Mexican embassy and you need to get down here and find me with my brothers, right? Because I feel I'm going to be sold into some type of, white slavery or something, trafficking, whatever's going on. I was pretty worried about myself back then. And I knew to have my head on a swivel, sort of say. So anyways, I do that, and the guy reaches behind him in the bookshelf and hands me my ticket, and boom, I get out of there. I jump in the car, and I'm like, Jorge, vamonos. And that was my driver, and he gets me to the airport, and he talks me through the first guy who took $20 to get me through the gates into the airport area, and then the one guy that got me on the plane told me to just stay on the plane when we land in Mexico City, and that we're going to load on more people, to keep my head down and don't act suspicious. And then you'll take off, and once you do, you'll land in LA. And I mean, I was nervous when we landed in Mexico City to load the plane because he was worried that the federales might come on because there would be word put ahead that I had left. And yeah, so I was a bit frightened. So anyways, that happened. I get back to Mexico City, fly out, get to LA, and let me tell you, oh my goodness, got off that plane and I about almost fell to the ground and kissed it. Just like, I'm back on American soil, and I got here without a passport, without my birth certificate. And within 3 months, I wrote a letter, and that gentleman that ran the Hyatt, he did send me all my mail, because back then we used to send mail, snail mail, and to communicate. And he did. He sent me my birth certificate, and everything cleared for me as far as the situation that happened there. But when I did get back, I did get into a show and some roommates and had a great time. It was a time of my life. Really good show, ice skating show. And I happened to meet the father of my 2 children. And I left him twice to go to Japan in the hopes that he would come and adventure with me. We didn't have kids at that time. We dated almost 3 years. And in the outpour of whatever that situation is and wherever it stands now, we'll just say that I was able to take flight, but have my feet firm and my foundation still with me, and not allow someone to see me as a light, adore it, and then want to snuff it out because they're so jealous of it, they don't want to share it or you to shine on anyone else's, even your own children, to turn around and do that in their heart and make them think any different of their mother. And I'll just leave it at that. And that's just the father of my children. So I learned there. And in this course of learning, I've not dated. Okay? I've dated here and there, but I've not had any long-term relationships, nothing like that. I had 2 that were great examples of what not to do. One was an opportunist. It was 6 weeks, and I it was a heads up. Dude was like 7'3", very tall. And I would walk by every day. This is my second career as a dealer. And I'd say, he'd make a good husband. Every day, he'd make a good husband. He'd make a good father to my children. I would say this in my mind as I would say, hello, in his name. Then, lo and behold, within 9 months, that person was asking me out. And within 6 weeks, he was asking me to marry him. And then I found out he was an opportunist and had major, major hangups and 4 marriages under his belt and couldn't be without type person. So I, put my hand up and, hey, let's give it a break and let's just date for about a year and we'll see where it is. And my children are young, so I'm going to protect them. And he even did never show up or be at my home overnight where my children saw him or my father that I was taking care of. Yeah, I kept it that clean. And he ran. Yeah, I pushed him away and kind of like put the mirror in his face like, dude, you're just coming on too strong, much too much of an opportunist right now. And I think you might think I have money or my father. I don't know. It was kind of creepy. And so I put up the hand and the boundary of like, hey, let's give it time. And that person ran. So the other one happened, my second, this is the only one. And the second one happened to speak a language that my father would recognize, which is the Yugoslavian. He spoke the Serb, and my dad was a Croatian, but the language is similar. And I knew just a little bit of the language from my dad using it, right? Naka noć meant good night, and čuraj would be to move over, scoot over kind of thing. Anyways, they were able to speak. So I thought that was kind of cool. And we dated. Very, very nice person. Well, this is when computers first came out and like Match.com. And this person was getting ready to take a trip back to his homeland of Yugoslavia, Prague, or that area. And he served in the war in 2005. And he had what you would call like those type of nightmares where they wake up and they're swinging and they have, friends and things that they witnessed or they did things that they don't really want to talk about. That type of person. I come in the house and he's, frolicking in my backyard, helping my father and helping me, and we're gardening and we're doing our thing. And I had built my own, we had like a chain link fence, and then I started building like a 2-tier with this leftover brick from a construction thing, and I started piling it and then digging deep and put the plastic in. And my dad loved to go to the store and get all the little tools and anything extra if I needed it. And we had chickens, and we had a rooster, and we had the chicken bin, bedding, and then we had a bunch of fig trees and grapes and pistachio and walnut and black walnut and numquat. I mean, you just name it. We just grapevines around the back wall, and turkey. So I had quite the little festivity of a kind of my own thing. And we took in the stray cats in the backyard. I had 1 to 3 at any time, and fed them, and everybody ate cat food. But anyways, that's my backyard, and they're doing their thing. And meanwhile, I'm building that pond, and I came in for a bit of a break. And I'm looking at the computer, and like I said, this is back probably when AOL was like, to sign in. And what I did was look on the computer. There's like another screen, so I pull it up, and it's like a woman standing there, and it's a dating site, which was Match.com back then, and he was communicating with, preparing to visit, and that was his backup or whatever. Just a move. That's the move, man. We were dating, and there was no trusting this person that was wanting me to trust him, telling me he loved me. Once again, just what a lesson, right? Now I have to confront the person, and they want to just boldly lie in front of my face. Like, same thing happened with my dad when the neighbor turned him on. Listen, this is my own dad. My neighbor turned him on to the free porn, and in his room he had the connection to his computer, and out in the other room I had mine. I never had problems with my computer. I got pretty good at it by about 2000, I'd say 10, 11, right? He had been getting into clicking that mouse for the free click that all the guys in the generation, whatever's going on, right? We've got like an obsession going on with this crap, and it's filth to the point where people can't pull away from it and just think clearly and have like just a respectful mind. And it started happening to my dad. And then his computer would get a virus and he'd be like, oh no, and be in denial. And this is my own father. So for me, my own father lying about something that pertains to his whole running to Saturday, every Saturday going to church and all about, you know, the whole righteousness, you know, and prudeness and perhaps, you know, judgments on other people, whatever. And then, I don't know, you know, oh, prostitution's one of the oldest careers of all time, you know, and like make the excuse for it. I don't really care. I don't really want it in my face, but I don't want you lying to me. If I'm asking you what site or where you were, or I need to shut it down, or we need to bring over a guy, like we're hiring the geek squad to come over at this point. It's so infested and he's got viruses going through. So this happened a couple times and taught me my own lesson when it came to my own father, right? So this person I have to confront. And I never went down that road again. I never really dealt with anybody to have an argument about how they want to live their life or what they believe in or how they conduct themselves or they buy their way through life, right? Like, or if they manipulate their way or, you know, they throw out the whole romanticism, but yet their heart is dark and they don't mean what they say. I mean, I've already had the practice of many, many men. So that brings us up to date of now almost 7 or 8 years of really doing a whole different, like, swerving the road and deep diving some stuff, right? And I'm informed and I worry about my grown children, right? And I have 2 of them. So I have 2 examples. I have a yin and a yang, a boy and a girl. One that took and one that didn't take the Jim Jones drinks, right? And gulp down that Kool-Aid, you know, and ride along the unicorn of that rainbow. To where, right? They don't know. They don't know, right? What's the big prize at the end? Who's benefiting on all that, right? We don't know. I do. I do. And the problem and the harshness that comes with that, I do know, is that we have a lot of people that are conditioned and cannot break away. They cannot break away.